What's up guys, Armchair Tuna back again with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be using the worst armor set in the entire game in my opinion, the Wasp armor. Originally I would have considered the Moldy Matriarch armor as the worst, but with the 1.3 update it got buffed to make it at least a little bit better. The reason why Wasp armor is so terrible to begin with, it's because the armor set bonuses are really bad, with its default effect being charge shot combo. And what does charge shot combo do? Once you land an uncharged shot with bows and crossbows, for some odd reason, it makes your next charge shot shoot twice as fast, which can be somewhat useful for shooting at long range, but it's pretty bad overall. The sleek effect of it is Quick Shot Refund, which has a chance to refund some stamina when shooting an uncharged shot, which is pretty good actually. Then for its full set bonus, it's called Air Superiority, and what that does is all ranged weapons do 30 more stun damage to flying creatures, which is decent but very situational depending on what you're fighting. So yeah, you could pretty much see why the Wasp armor is so bad. Pretty much because 2/3 of its effects are either mid to begin with or an incredibly situational, with its one good effect being locked behind an upgrade wall. But the one rule for this video that I have to follow is I cannot use any other pieces of armor in the game to improve it, only the full set of Wasp armor by itself to go off of. So with that info out of the way, let's get into the video. So for this build, I brainstormed what would go well with the Wasp armor set bonuses, but one thing was certain, I was 100% going to use the Bard's Bow to be able to summon Wasp from it, and also to be able to get the Bardic Inspiration buffs, and oh yeah, I should probably put on Sharpshooter as well, just because of the bow. Thinking of what I said, the charge shot combo effect being able to shoot arrows twice as fast, which also means twice as far as well, meaning I could shoot pretty far without having to get close to the enemy that I'm fighting. So with that, I would decide to make a bootleg summoner build, but with a few minor changes. The man is a real hit or miss, as it's so useful when it's summoned, but it just has such a low chance that 9 times out of 10, it just takes up a valuable perk slot. And Mom Jeans is pretty terrible without poison, but I did have a backup plan for that. So with that info, I decided I would want to be able to deal a huge amount of damage while still being in a safe position. So with that, Coup de Grace was added to the build for damage and Mom Jeans for later. For the trinkets, I had 5 lined up. The first one being the Widow Whittling trinket, the second being Force Pendant, the third being Nifty Needle, the fourth being the Broodmother trinket, and the fifth being the Infected Broodmother trinket. But remember earlier how I said I wanted to make a bootleg summoner build? As good as Force Pendant is, and how well the Nifty Needle fits in with the build, they don't really fit with the archetype as a whole, so unfortunately they are going to be out. I thought real hard about how good the Infected Broodmother trinket was, but it just didn't fit with how well the other two fit with the build and what I was going for with it. The Widow Whittling trinket added more summons and damage with the venom, and the Broodmother trinket allows all summons to deal poison damage, so the Infected Broodmother trinket was out as well. This left us with 2 trinkets, the Widow Whittling trinket and the Broodmother trinket. While testing for the Widow Whittling trinket, it fit pretty well with the build. It applies venom and does trigger almost as often as the normal spiderlings, but I noticed one thing about the Broodmother trinket that made it much more viable than the Whittling trinket, and that is its poison summons, which not only make the normal spiderling stronger, but also the Wasp as well. I observed that not only does the double damage to summons greatly help the overall damage, but also applies a second layer of poison separate from the Wasp's own poison. Combined with Mom Jeans, the extra poison, and you get one hell of a summon build. So I chose the Broodmother trinket as the go-to trinket of the build. So for testing this build, I decided to test it on 3 enemies: the strongest ground enemy that's not a boss, air enemy, and strongest air boss, with those enemies being the Black Widow, Wasp, and Wasp Queen. I chose these enemies to test the worst parts of the Wasp armor, being charge shot combo and the full set bonus air superiority. For the Black Widow, I wanted to see the Wasp armor's range abilities, so I wanted to get as far as I could from one while the summons distract it to be able to deal the most amount of damage possible. As for the Wasp and the Wasp Queen, I wanted to test out the air superiority effect for both of them to see how often it proc. With that explanation out of the way, let's get into the first fight. So, as I mentioned, I wanted to test out how well the range really was with the charge shot combo effect. So, leading this Black Widow out of her cave, I got a few good hits in. However, just mere seconds to do the first attempt, the Black Widow used her web attack, trapping me and allowing her and her Whittlings to deal amazing damage. And with the Wasp armor being classified as light armor, I was taken out in one swift combo. Take 2 was also cut short, with the Black Widow trapping me in her web and the Black Ox finishing me off. Pause. So, third time's a charm. At first, it really wasn't going too well, me getting caught in another web and getting real close to dying, as well as a Wasp I summoned somehow completely missing their target. However, things only got better from there, as I did an insane amount of damage to the Black Widow, as well as the Black Widow having enough with this Black Ox and sending him to the stratosphere. Things did get real close here, but the Black Widow decided that she had enough and de-aggroed, causing me to get the killing blow on her. There's not much that I have to say about the Wasp fight, but one thing I can say is that air superiority sucks. Even when I did redo the fight with sour arrows to increase the stun, it barely triggered, with the only time it did trigger is when I managed to parry a Wasp out of the air, which is really giving me low hopes for the Wasp Queen fight. And low hopes came with the Wasp Queen fight. It was okay at first, but as soon as the Wasp spawned in, the controller was one step closer to the wall. I'm going to leave out a bunch of info, but all you need to know is that it consisted of death, Wasp Queen heals to full, and more death. Until finally, after a grueling hour of this fight, I shot my last arrow, and the pain was over. Surprisingly, a few times in this fight, air superiority actually worked. Only for around a second, that is. So, is the Wasp armor good after I tried to improve it? Sort of. It's still terrible with the full set bonus, but you could probably get away with using a piece in your build. But that was it for today's video. If you all enjoyed it, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it will help out a ton. And I will see you all later. Peace.